Alright guys, welcome back to Valorant News. Huge developments in the Valorant world today, especially on the tier 2 side, with G2 deciding to leave Valorant and release their entire roster. ShahZaM will stay on as a content creator, but this is one of the biggest organizations in the game deciding to step away for the time being. Is this predominantly Riot's fault why this is happening? ShahZaM explains the full story. Very much enjoyed to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. So this is what we saw from zyppan just yesterday, right? When he says orgs are dropping out of Valorant. Brought to you by Manscaped. I mean, yeah, lots of orgs dropping out over the last several weeks, and it was expected more would follow, and we'll get into that in a second. Firstly, thought this is pretty funny here from the guards. You guys might remember a story now of, I think it was last year sometime, where Trent was playing on 60 Hz on his monitor. Like, you guys know that when you get a 144 Hz monitor, you have to go into the settings and actually change it in the display settings to ensure that it's running at 144 Hz, because there's so many stories of pros over the last several years that have got a brand new, 240 Hz monitor, but they don't actually change it to 240 Hz. They're just still running on 60. And last year this happened to Trent, and this was the tweet at the time. Trent unironically played on 60 Hz for our match in all of our scrims. So as soon as he turned it off, then, he was looking even better. And this, I think it's something to do with the PCs or whatever, that this event, they're playing a 120, which is definitely not ideal, but, as he's saying here, like, at least he's upgraded from last time, and he's still leading the stats. So Trent is a great player, and if the guard do qualify, he's probably going to stay on the guard, you would think, whatever roster they form next season. But if he doesn't, and the guard don't qualify, then I imagine that a team like 100 Thieves is going to try and get this guy. I think it could help them an awful lot. Let's talk about some of the LCQs. As I say before, this isn't technically an LCQ for China. This is just the straight-up qualifier because nobody else has qualified yet. But we do have a couple of games that went down yesterday. FunPlus Phoenix take out Weibo Gaming, and then Attacking Soul Esports 2-0'd Monarch Effect. So those were two of the favourites, really, in the tournament to make it to the World Championship, and they're already in losers here. So you'd expect that Tyloo and Edward Gaming, like Edward should get the win there. That will qualify them all the way through, because top 3 in this tournament is enough. So the 2 upper finals teams and the lower final team, they all qualify, and therefore all the qualifiers for those matches are best of 5s. Pretty crazy. But one of Tyloo Edward will make it, one of Trace and Billy Gaming will make it as well, and then possibly one of these 2 teams will make it as well. But the losers run is going to be challenging. This is also the Pacific last chance qualifier. Boom take down Bonkers, Scars take down Fancy United. So these are the 2 semi-finals here. Pretty crazy. Like, there's no losers bracket involved here. It's just straight single elimination. Winner takes it all effectively. So yeah, some big series to come here in this region. The winner of the grand finals tomorrow will of course make it all the way through. So big matches to come on that side of things. And also, speaking of the Ascension in Sao Paulo right now, they're getting ready to go over there for what is going to be a massive day of action. This is of course coming up this evening, and we've talked about this the last couple of days now at how, these are both best of 3s as well. At international events, the losers final will be a best of 5, and arguably it should be, but no, it's a back-to-back best of 3. I'm pretty sure M89Z, and then the winner of that plays the Union, and arguably it should be on a separate day. They had time to execute it, they didn't, and it's just another event, another set of discussions around the poor format that has been executed here, and you can't necessarily blame Knights Arena for this one. As Chet says, they want it to go faster, so we miss Valorant more in the 4-month off season, and 4 months is actually probably quite a generous way to look at it in some respects, because some players have been playing for, have been off for some time now, especially in tier 2, and they won't be back on until the middle of January. So big off seasons for many of these guys, and that's why in large part we're going to see what we were about to see in a second here with G2. And Redx says thoughts on a year round, 3 masters, 1 champions per season calendar, like maybe 2 ascensions per year, so each team gets 1 year instead of 2. They can compete immediately. Could be some interesting ideas there for sure. And but as Chet says, let me schedule everything. I'll do the patch release as well, so pro teams and challengers can play on the same patch during the regular season, which is another big issue in terms of getting practice against other teams. So I mean, yeah, I agree with Chet really. There's plenty of problems here. He would want to fix them if he could, but unfortunately they're probably not going to let him. But every year there's always some complaints here, and I think that this kind of season where, like, we have so few events this year, we've got 3 technically: Lock-in, Tokyo, Champions, but that's kind of it. Be nice if there was at least least one more. But let's talk G2, right? Because, I mean, they obviously did this announcement when they made this team initially, and they are now parting ways with their entire Valorant roster. Now, ShahZaM stays as part of G2, but only as a content creator, right? So he's still part of G2, but not as an actual player any longer. And, you know, that's what G2 are deciding to do. It's an interesting one, and G2 would have expected to do better. They started the season quite promisingly. Their team just didn't really deliver down the line, and, yeah, they've decided to part ways. It makes sense. I mean, it's kind of crazy, right, that of all the organizations that are actually still paying their players during this massive off-season where there's nothing really to do, is Moist Moguls, right? The guys that are funded by content creators. I'm pretty sure they're keeping their guys around. So, you know, those players will really have to deliver when the time comes. But, yeah, for G2, it's done and dusted now. They released their entire team after failing to qualify for the Ascension League and have parted ways with their roster. Is this the last we see of G2 in Valorant? I don't expect it to be. I imagine they will look to return next season, potentially re-sign some of these guys when the time comes. But of course, all of these players will look for other opportunities elsewhere. ShahZaM has made it clear that he still wants to stay around. I think he said that for some time, that his intention is still to compete. It might not be on G2 though next year. We'll see about that. Whippy, of course, who is a controversial character for some points this season, says, thanks to the G2 fans for the support, like I'm still confident in his play. But it's going to be difficult, right? Because of course he's a free agent, restricted actually, so they're all still under contract here. So there would be some sort of buyout involved, which wouldn't be easy for these guys to accommodate, especially at the moment, when no team is going to be making changes really until, you know, it's going to be at least a couple of months really until after Champions where the teams start to make moves. Same story for Imi, their coach, right? He says, thanks to G2 for the opportunity, willing to relocate anywhere, has got a US visa as well, so lots of options there. But it just goes to show, right, that he's not like, oh yeah, thanks G2, but I'll be back type thing. It's like, well, no, I probably won't be back to G2, and looking for other opportunities. I was going to say dapr, Whippy, Penny, you know, Oxy, Imi, and Danny all out the door. And, you know, dapr, another example here, been taking a break since our season ended to get my headspace right after not qualifying for the Ascension LAN, ending our season for 6 months. No longer with G2. Want to thank them for the support. And I think that dapr is one of the players that could definitely get a spot somewhere good.
Planning on competing next season? Yeah, I would like to. It's just unfortunate that Riot did not give any challengers org a reason to stay in Valorant, and so the future of challengers looks really bleak. I have 6 months before challengers starts again. I'm trying to get in a healthier lifestyle. I know I've been getting like tilted on stream a lot easily, but I'm hoping that, you know, I can fix myself up and grow the stream again. But outside of that, yeah, they mutually terminated contracts with all my teammates. Mine's structured a bit different. I'm still on my pro contract, but there's no longer a team, so I'm just gonna honor my contract and stream under G2. GG said, fuck our roster change. We don't want to have Valorant team anymore. Nah, dude. It was more like Riot said, fuck a scene. We don't want Valorant teams anymore. Wait, actually, I ruined that joke, but you know what I mean. It's not G2. G2 did nothing wrong. It's fucking Riot. The fuck challengers. Focus on franchising. In a couple years from now, we'll build a challenger scene. You know, there will always be some Zoomers playing. The current people right now, like, all right, dude. Here's some applications. You know, some other jobs.
ShahZaM, as he says, our past season definitely could have been better. Proud of the effort we put in. They didn't win. It's difficult to win, you know. It's esports, you know. It's difficult to win. But as he says, streaming until my next opportunity. I'm not done, he says. Making it clear that he's not going to retire and not going away. But still, not the ideal end for ShahZaM and this G2 team. I think Oxy is another player that I'd like to see get a spot somewhere. As he says, my first team always be crazy. My first year Pro Val. Oxy I thought was very impressive, really. I guess he's back to LFT now. I get back to looking for a new team. Must return to LFT, it's been too long. So yeah, Oxy's going to be back. I think that of the players really, it's like Oxy and dapr that I think people will really look at there from this G2 roster as potentially getting signed up to, you know, tier 1 franchise next season. ShahZaM definitely possible, but he's still, I guess, contracted to G2. But we'll be looking at other offers as well when the time comes. But yeah, I think as Vanity says, and definitely requires maintenance, this tier 2 ecosystem, because the idea that this is what's happened, an organization the caliber and the pedigree of G2 is like, well, there's no point us fielding this roster and paying for these guys for another 4 or 5 months when there's literally nothing to play. We might as well just release them and save the money. Like, it doesn't make any business sense to keep these guys around. And it's just a terrible look for the Valorant scene in general when you see all these, you know, orgs exiting effectively. And, you know, as Vanity says, there needs to be more communication. They need to look at how things are going to work in the future here, because, you know, they can't afford this to happen next year when all the organizations, again, once they're out out of tier 2 then, you know, decide just to dip, because the same probably would have happened to the Guard had they not qualified for Ascension, but they're pretty good, and they did, and they probably will keep on going. So massive day today in all the Ascension tournaments around the world, but you know, with many of the Ascension matches ending quite some time ago for these players, we've had many stories such as the one we've seen with G2, and now even big organizations like them are getting involved. So very much intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.